One of the most significant geopolitical events that happened in the year 1975 was when Cuba intervened in the civil war in Angola. This was right after Angola became a free country away from Portuguese colonial rule. The Cuban troops were sent to Angola as part of a proxy force to fight against the South African troops and the UNITA rebels who were backed by the United States. Now, one notable incident or episode in Cuba's intervention in this war was the battle for Quefangondo. The battle took place in November of 1975. It was fought between the Cuban-backed MPLA forces and the FNLA and UNITA forces who were supported by the United States and South Africa respectively. The battle was a decisive victory for the MPLA and the Cubans. They were able to defeat the combined forces on the opposite side and capture the town of Quefangondo. This was a small but strategic town located near the border with Zaire. The Cuban-led forces were able to push the South African and American-backed rebels, which caused a major shift in the balance of power in Angola. This battle was significant as it marked the first time that Cuban troops were used in a major foreign conflict. It marked the start of Cuba's role as a major player in Africa during the Cold War. The battle also marked the end of the civil war in Angola and the establishment of communist rule. The X factor in this particular battle, and indeed in the wider war in Angola, was the continuous supply of heavy-duty weaponry to the Cuban troops from the Soviet Union, most notably the T-62 tanks. Today, nearly 50 years later, the shoe is on the other foot. Russia is at the receiving end. Britain has now become the latest Western country to pledge that it's going to provide heavy-duty tanks to Ukraine. On Crux Decode, why this could mark a significant shift in the ongoing war as both sides seek to end the stalemate and move the conflict into a more conclusive phase. Will British and French tanks be the X factor in this current war in Ukraine, much like they did 50 years ago in Angola? British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has pledged to provide heavy tanks and artillery systems to Ukraine, making Britain the first Western country to provide such heavy armoury. Sunak has promised to send 14 Challenger 2 tanks to Ukraine following a call with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky over the weekend. The move makes the UK the first Western country to supply these heavy tanks which Kiev has been asking for. The Prime Minister's office put out a statement which said that the UK defence and security officials believe that a window has opened up where Russia is on the back foot because of resupply issues as well as the plummeting morale of Russian troops. The Prime Minister is therefore encouraging allies to deploy their planned support for 2023 as soon as possible for it to have maximum impact. The squadron of Challenger 2 tanks, which are battle tanks designed to attack other tanks, will go into Ukraine in the coming weeks. About 30 AS-90s, which are large self-propelled guns operated by 5 gunners, they're also expected to follow suit. Russia has responded to the UK's pledge by warning that this will only intensify the conflict. Bringing in tanks into the conflict zone, far from drawing the hostilities to a close, will only serve to intensify the combat operations, generating more casualties, including among the civilian population. That is how the Russian embassy in London reacted to this latest development. Now, back during the Cold War, the UK provided various forms of military aid to countries which it saw as friendly, as also potential allies against communism. The UK was a member of NATO. It provided military aid to other NATO member countries. It also provided military and non-military aid to countries outside of NATO through its various foreign aid programs. The UK provided economic and military assistance to countries like Greece, Turkey, and Iran as part of what's called the Baghdad Pact, which was a US-led pact to counter Soviet influence in the Middle East. The UK also provided military aid to countries in Africa and Asia through its own foreign aid programs. This included weapons, ammunition, vehicles, and training to countries like Malaysia, Kenya, and Oman. Additionally, the UK also played a key role in the formation of the Western European Union, or the WEU, which was a military alliance of Western European countries established to counter Soviet influence. The UK provided military aid and support to WEU members like West Germany, France, and Belgium. The UK also provided non-military aid in the form of financial assistance, training, and logistical support to other WEU countries. Ukraine has been asking to be supplied with heavier tanks for months now. It wants the US Abrams and the German Leopard 2 tanks. However, some Western leaders have been treading rather cautiously. Poland and the Czech Republic have provided Soviet-era T-72 tanks to the Ukrainian army. While Poland has also expressed readiness to give the Leopard tanks, President Andrzej Duda has underscored that this move would only be possible as part of a larger, much broader international coalition of tank aid to Ukraine. Earlier this month, France said it would be sending the AMX-10 RC, the armored combat vehicles, to Ukraine. France, in fact, calls these light tanks. The US and Germany have announced the same week that they would be sending Bradley fighter vehicles and the Marder armored personnel carriers. This is the first time that the US and Germany have agreed to send such heavy-duty weapons into Ukraine. Now, all of this is expected to give Ukraine a fighting edge as both sides look at intense battles in the east, particularly in places like Soledar and Bakhmut. The Challenger 2 tank is the deadliest armament that's being supplied to Ukraine yet. It is known for its advanced armor and a powerful 120mm smoothbore gun. It also has thermal imaging systems, a laser rangefinder, and a computerized fire control system for increased accuracy. It's considered one of the most heavily armored tanks in the world, with a high level of protection and firepower, making it a formidable and lethal killing machine on the battlefield. Providing these tanks to Ukraine would give it a significant military advantage, as the advanced armor and firepower of tanks like the Challenger 2 or the AMX-10 could help neutralize Russian military hardware. It would also send a message of strong support to Ukraine and a deterrent possibly to Russia, potentially shifting the balance of power in Ukraine's favor. Now, back during the Cold War, the United States provided the Patton tanks, the iconic Patton tanks, to countries like Poland, Hungary, and Czechoslovakia. And that was considered back then the ultimate deterrent against Soviet aggression. Now, 50 years on, the script hasn't changed much, even though the players may have.